Happy birthday, Sonic the Hedgehog! For a character with such youthful energy, it's amazing how Sonic the Hedgehog has been around for 35 years. Yes, the blue blur has been spinning around for more than 3 decades and garnering a lot of fans along the way. And like many, Sonic was very formative to my larval gaming state. No matter the trajectory, without him, I wouldn't be the gamer that I am today, which is why I want to celebrate this occasion. As such, I do want to put a disclaimer that my list is going to be vastly different than yours. Sure, every ranking video is subjective, but the effects of nostalgia are probably the strongest here. Most of the games are skewed toward the classic variety, but there are definitely some modern games I genuinely enjoy too. Heck, I'm pretty sure that even in just a few years this list is gonna become dated and I'm gonna shift some places around outside of the top 3. If anything, and I genuinely mean it, please let me know in the comments what are your favorite Sonic games. And if this video does well, maybe it can do a ranking on all the Sonic games, even the spin-offs, since I'm not focusing on them this time. But without further ado, here are my top 10 favorite Sonic games. How appropriate the first game on this list is the one that started it all. The original Sonic the Hedgehog has been run through the mud in recent years. Complaints on how the game has a speed limit to the momentum, and the slower, more methodical approach to platforming made it rather contentious. But here's the thing. This, for lack of a better term, is the genesis of Sonic. Without Sonic 1, we wouldn't have any of the sequels that we have today. This was the first attempt on a brand new platforming mascot with unique gameplay style that wasn't attempted before. Where other games featured more straight lines in their geometry, Sonic dared to introduce not just curves, but loop-de-loops too. I will always defend Marble Zone for being challenging yet still enjoyable, but Labyrinth is where I can acquiesce. I can defend the boss, it's just a vertical obstacle course with no air bubbles. And don't get me started on the awful prank of Scrap Brain Zone Act 3. Yeah, Sonic 1 has issues, but very few debuts hit everything out of the park. Even with those qualms, Sonic 1 has a charm all of its own. Green Hill Zone, despite being the most overused level in the series, is still iconic. The soundtrack is amazing, and I will always adore Starlight Zone in particular. I even enjoy the special stages and finishing the game with all the emeralds in tow. As a kid, nothing made me happier than seeing a frustrated Eggman jumping angrily on the end text. Funny enough, this actually wasn't the very first Sonic game I've ever played, but it was actually the Master System version. My dad actually rented a system for a few days, and for that reason alone it deserves an honorable mention, especially with that Yuzo Koshiro soundtrack. For being the first title in a long-lasting franchise, Sonic the Hedgehog set the stage for great things to come. Despite the slower pace, it has some pretty good platforming, and I will always adore its visuals and soundtrack. No matter what you tell me, the OG definitely deserves a spot on the list. When I was younger, I really wanted to play the Sonic Game Gear games, but I never got that handheld and I would have to wait until 2003 when I got to play Sonic Adventure DX on the GameCube, which has the entire library. However, there was a different handheld I would play a Sonic game on, and it came from the least likely of places. Sonic on Nintendo? Yeah, now it's not that big of a deal, but back then, this was inconceivable. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter when Sonic Advance was this fun to play. And as much as I like Sonic Advance, I like its sequel even more. Before I praise this game, let me get this out of the way. I don't like the method of getting into the special stages. Having to collect 7 special rings in specific locations without dying is not fun. Having to do that with every single character to unlock the hidden ending is extremely punishing. But if you play just to get to the end of the game and finish it without a completion requirement, it's pretty fun. Sonic Advance 2 definitely turns things up a notch, being a much faster experience than its predecessor. Nothing matches that dopamine rush I get when I reach a certain speed threshold and I see after images of my character as I outrun the screen. In addition, it's easy to maintain that flow state by performing various tricks to extend jumps or reach higher places. And of course, I gotta applaud the level selection. While there are some clear favorites of mine like Leaf Forest or Sky Canyon, I just have to single out Music Plant. This is by far one of my favorite Sonic levels of all time, with its pink horizons, all different instruments on display, jumping on music notes or being blown out of a giant trumpet. This is Dimps at their most creative. Another sticking point for many besides the special stages are the bosses. Since they all feature this forced scrolling gimmick that requires you to run the entire time, which does admittedly have kind of a steep learning curve. This might be a hot take, but I actually like the challenging bosses in Advance 2. Except the Sky Canyon boss, because dying in one hit, even if you have rings, is the stuff of nightmares. But if you're really struggling, there is always Cream the Rabbit. This game marked her debut alongside her trusty Chow Cheese. And that name is incredibly appropriate because that's exactly what you're gonna do to all the bosses. You can spam his homing attack to such a point that even the final boss becomes a joke. Sonic Advance 2 definitely have some problems specifically with its difficulty, but its highs make up for a lot of them. As long as you don't take 100% completion too seriously, Sonic Advance 2 is a challenging romp that shouldn't be missed.
Congratulations!
Sonic has had plenty of anniversary celebrations. Some met with resounding successes, and some were a bit more, dubious. But without a doubt, Sonic's 20th anniversary was the perfect celebration of 2 decades of Sonic the Hedgehog. And of course you know what I'm talking about, it's Sonic Generations. The game features 2 different styles of gameplay, classic and modern. At the time of its release, we didn't really have that many 2D games in the franchise, so classic was a nice throwback to the games of old. I especially like some of the more modern levels getting the side-scrolling treatment. Modern Sonic, however, is where the game truly shines. In my opinion, this is Sega finally got the boost system right. The game is obviously fast, but I love the fact that the level design is very intricate, with plenty alternate paths to explore. One of my original complaints with Generations was the level selection. Most of the levels were city-based, and I would argue the only one that looks unique is Chemical Plant Zone. However, I can't blame Sonic Team at all. Speed Highway, City Escape, Crisis City, and Rooftop Run are arguably the best levels of their respective games. But I do wish we had a different choice for Sonic Colors than Planet Wisp. The main gripe I had is that I wish that modern Sonic didn't have that many 2D segments. Classic already being entirely in that style makes the modern levels a little less distinct. Regardless, Sonic Generation remains one of the finest games in Sonic Library. My complaints vanish as soon as I blast through so many nostalgic levels and encountering the bosses of yore. Seriously, tackling Perfect Chaos as regular Sonic is so cool. I have this headcanon that Sonic has become so powerful at that point that it doesn't even need the Chaos Emerald to defeat Chaos. Commemorating Sonic's anniversary is one thing, but Generation does it with care, effort, and polish. It celebrated 20 years of Sonic the Hedgehog, and I'm sure we're gonna keep doing it for futures to come. Do you seriously need me to tell you why Sonic Adventure 2 is such a monumental game? Probably not, but let's dissect it anyway. I love the whole Hero vs. Dark theme. Not only was it a unique idea, but Dr. Eggman being a playable character in a mainline Sonic game was such an unprecedented concept. That's like if Bowser was playable in Mario Sunshine. Alongside Eggman, we also get 2 of the best characters in the whole franchise, Shadow the Hedgehog and Rouge the Bat. I like Rouge a lot with her femme fatale energy, but Shadow quickly became my favorite character, even beating Knuckles. The black fur with the red accents, the rocket shoes, his skating animation, David Humphrey's cool voice. This character was designed to be the antithesis for Sonic's 90s dude. It's probably why their rivalry was the highlight of the game, and the levels were easily the best. When I first played this game, I actually started playing with a dark story, which is the unpopular choice. Mainly because I wanted to start evil and become good later on, but it also made me realize I had to wait 3 whole stages to play as Shadow. And that might be the sticking point for Sonic Adventure 2. While there are only 3 gameplay styles as opposed to 6 with Adventure 1, Sonic and Shadow's speedy levels are only a third of the experience. Knuckles and Rouge's treasure hunting stages are bigger, which makes them more intricate, but I really wish the radar could track all 3 items at the same time. Being next to an emerald shard without it reacting feels rather counterintuitive. And this might be a hot take, but I generally enjoyed the shooting levels for Tails and Eggman. Racking up combos by locking on as many enemies as possible and getting a high score definitely appeals to my dormant Sebian neurons. But let's be real, the Sonic and Shadow levels are the main attraction. City Escape aside, there are so many classics. Metal Harbor, Green Forest, Sky Rail, and one of the best final levels in Final Rush. There are very few duds here. This was also an introduction of rail grinding, and jumping between rails and maintaining speed was incredibly satisfying to perform. Originally the game came out for the Dreamcast, celebrating its 10th anniversary no less. Despite being lauded as a swan song for the system, most people remember this game because of the GameCube port. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is how most people were introduced to Sonic and actually did improve on some things. I rarely touched the multiplayer on the Dreamcast, but not only the frame rate was raised to 60 on Nintendo's console, but additional levels and modes were added too. The game also ushered the ranking system. After beating a level, you graded for your performance, and it started me going into a deep rabbit hole getting the highest rank in any following Sonic game. I enjoyed the game so much that I got all 180 emblems on both the Dreamcast and the GameCube. And when most games don't grant any rewards for 100% completion, Sonic Team went out of their way and made a Green Hill Zone in-engine. And before it became the most overused level of all time, this reward was absolutely awesome! With gameplay tweaks, a seminal soundtrack, and an epic storyline, Sonic Adventure 2 shot for the moon and actually nailed it. And I also mean literally because that's what Eggman does in the game. It is definitely one of Sonic's finest adventures. CD used to be this underground game, this elusive title that was only released on the ill-fated Sega CD. I was unable to afford that, so I ended up instead with a PC version. Later on it would become the marquee title on Sonic Gems Collection, which was the most approachable way to play it at the time. My point is, before Sonic CD became ubiquitous, there was this allure that made it a mythical 2D Sonic game that very few played. But even years removed from that status, I still enjoy Sonic CD. We know that Sonic is fast, but this game showcases how we can literally tear through the fabric of time and transport to a whole different era. Sure, the time travel is a gimmick and the gameplay doesn't really change too drastically, but visually I love seeing different variations of the same level, especially the 2 what-if scenarios with the good and bad future. I also get a kick out of the special stages, and yeah, there are some growing pains when it comes to gauging your perspective when you're jumping, but hitting those UFOs at the right angle is still very satisfying to me after all those years. I'd be remiss if I don't mention this was also the debut of both Amy and Metal Sonic. The latter is featured in arguably one of the coolest moments in the 2D era, and not one but 2 catchy soundtracks. I talked about this game in length a decade ago when I reviewed it, so let me sum things up. Since Sonic CD has become more readily available, some of its mystique has disappeared too. Now the game is regarded as yet another average Sonic game, often criticized for its messy level design. And I I can agree that some levels don't have the same cohesion as other Sonic titles, but it's also why I have this fondness to CD. Stardust Speedway is mostly comprised of tubes, but I could care less because I'm having so much fun going fast. I also appreciate the more sprawling level design to CD, like finding and destroying the hidden robot generators, just in case you don't want to deal with the special stages. Even if Sonic CD is not as revered as it used to be, because it's a one-of-a-kind experience, I can't help but love it all the same. Fight on, Toot Toot Sonic Warrior!
Toot Toot Sonic Warrior, never sleep again. Nothing is right, the way to stay alive is if you try. You can do anything.
I had no idea why in 2024 Sega wanted to re-release Sonic Generations, until I saw this. Shadow Generation is the biggest redemption story in Sonic history. Shadow became such an iconic character that he got his own game in 2005. And yeah, we all know how that went. I was originally thinking of combining this with Sonic Generations, but seeing how people separate Bowser's Fury from Mario 3D World and how this release is 30 years removed from the original, I figured that Shadow Generations deserves its very own spot. The game takes everything that worked in Sonic Generation and makes it better. First and foremost, I love the clear division between the two acts. The first act is full-on modern 3D level with arguably the best level design in the series. Not only that each level is brimming with shortcuts, but the amount of jaw-dropping set pieces is staggering. I mean, do I really need to mention the Doctor Strange-esque radical highway segments? I would even argue the more modest second act levels with their focus on 2D gameplay are still fun in their own right. Not to mention, I think the level selection here is far superior to the original, and my jaw dropped when I realized that Space Colony Arc was the first level. Even Kingdom Valley, which was one of the most maligned levels of all time, has become many's favorite. Shadow also has a bevy of new abilities to use. Gone are the ill-fitted firearms and enter brand new Doom powers. While all of them have their utility, the Doomorph is by far my favorite. Shadow can use points in the level to either swing or launch forward, and it creates so many fun gameplay moments. Thanks to all those tricks, this was the first Sonic game in years that I genuinely wanted to replay its levels over and over. I'm even more amazed how Sonic Team were able to take this simple hub world of Sonic Generations and create a much more impressive 3D one here. I said it before, this is what I wanted Sonic Frontiers to be like. The White Void, despite its apparent emptiness, harbors a lot of secrets and goodies to collect. And you know what? I legitimately enjoyed the story too. Seeing Shadow interact with Maria one last time was emotional, and having a more compassionate Gerald Robotnik was a pleasant surprise. Shadow Generations is a tour de force, with sublime level design, fantastic art direction, exquisite soundtrack, and much, much more. It achieved a standard of quality that has united Sonic fans of all eras. I don't care if it's short because it knew how to use its running time to the fullest. I will take a short game over a long one with needless padding any day. It's rather interesting that one of the best Sonic games ever made doesn't even feature him in a starring role. And it's even more poetic that one of the franchise's biggest light is actually its shadow. I am aware that Sonic Adventure has been regarded as a mixed bag due to its bevy of issues, such as the uneven gameplay styles or the camera. But you know what? Nostalgia can be one powerful force. And while in my opinion Shadow Generations is the best 3D Sonic game ever made, Sonic Adventure is my favorite. It is one of the most ambitious games in the franchise's history. Sega could have easily settled with a basic Sonic campaign, but I applaud them for having 5 additional characters, each having their own story and set of levels to go through. I especially like how some paths intertwine and you get to see the same scene, but viewed from a different perspective with different camera angles or even dialogue. I also adore the cheesy voice acting. Ryan Drummond's energy as Sonic is infectious, and I will always adore the late Dean Bristows and his deliciously evil portrayal of Dr. Eggman. The levels in Sonic Adventure are some of my all-time favorites. Everyone talked about the iconic whale chase in Emerald Coast, but the others deserve love too. For example, Windy Valley takes you on a journey, starting Sonic off in a windmill-laden village, leading to being swept into a giant tornado and escaping its heart, only to end up high in the sky on metallic bridges suspended in the air. Every single level in Sonic Campaign takes you through so many different locations, forming an experience that holds up even today. And I will defend some of those characters too. Each one of them has their highs and lows, but I appreciate the variety. Yes, even Big the Cat. I'm not a big fan of the fishing minigame, and it can be more unruling than it has any right to be, but I admit, exploring his levels can be shockingly intriguing. I never knew the side aquariums in Hot Shelter are accessible, but Big can raise the water level in the main room and explore that seemingly unreachable area. Is it necessary? No, but the fact it exists is kinda wild. Oh, and Gamma, my dear Gamma. Not only is my favorite character to play outside of Sonic, but he has by far the best story out of any Sonic game. His ending makes me tear up, and it hasn't happened to me ever since. Not even the ending of Adventure 2. I also admit that I enjoy exploring the adventure fields. Sure, they slow the pace, but they just have this kind of vibe that just oozes a lot of charm. It also has my favorite Sonic soundtrack of all time, ranging from your rocking tunes to even more calming tracks. And oh, Crush 40, how could I forget their debut? Open Your Heart is a classic! It is also the first time we got a last story with an epic encounter with the final boss. As much as I want to be a critic and judge games based on quality alone, sometimes it's okay for emotion to take control. Sonic Adventure is a game I will always come back to and play a few levels just to have fun. You may have a hard time adjusting to this game, but if you open your heart, it's gonna be alright. While I mentioned earlier that Sonic 1 for the Master System was my first exposure to Sonic, Sonic 2 was my first love. I remember getting a Mega Drive 2 system for my birthday, and alongside a copy of Sonic 2. Safe to say I played it for hours, and it quickly became my favorite game at that time. And really, what I can possibly say about this game that hasn't been said before? Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is everything a sequel should be. Let's start with the most obvious addition. Miles Tails Prower. His friendly and eager personality combined with his adorable design and his titular Tails made him a gaming icon. I know people love Tails so much that when they play the game solo, they still opt to choose both Sonic and Tails together for the more authentic experience. I am not one of those people, because having a computer-controlled Tails in the special stages is a recipe for disaster. But it was still nice that a second player can take control of Tails and help out with these stages or the bosses. It also controls much better, and a lot of it is thanks to the addition of the Spin Dash. I played Sonic 1 after 2, so losing that ability made me realize how essential it was. Being able to build up speed to scale any slope makes it perhaps the best addition the series has ever had. The levels are also fantastic. Chemical Plant Zone is still amazing years later. Casino Night Zone is such a vibe, probably my favorite level in the whole game, and I will always be amazed by the sheer aura of the Winged Fortress. And I'll probably be the only person online who will sing praises in the 2-player mode. Even Origins added additional levels, which was a welcome surprise. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was also one of the very first games I remember actually beating. I remember beating Silver Sonic and chasing Eggman, thinking to myself, okay, now I got you. But then he jumps into this giant robot and I was like, oh my god, am I in trouble? Its sheer size and quick attacks meant that I had no chance of survival, especially with 0 rings to my name. But when I landed that final hit and I saw the limbs of the robot fall off and I had to escape the exploding death egg, that was one of the most satisfying moments of my gaming life. And that ending cutscene lives in my brain rent-free. If Sonic 1 laid the foundation, Sonic 2 built upon it and created one of the finest games in the 16-bit era. An absolute classic. It was rather surprising back in 2016 that we didn't get any Sonic games to commemorate his 25th birthday. But we did get the stream, and one of my favorite cringe moments of all time. But we did get one game announcement slated for the following year, Sonic Mania. However, at the time I wasn't that enthused because I feel like we've been in this rodeo before. Sega has tried to sell us Sonic nostalgia in the past with mixed results. But thanks to the involvement of some of the most talented developers in the Sonic fan game community, any concern I've previously had dissipated quickly. When August 15, 2017 came around, I waited until 9 PM for the game to be available. This was the only time I've ever pre-ordered a game digitally, and I wanted to play it day one. And long story short, I love this game so much, I beat it in a single sitting. Sonic Mania is not just one of the best Sonic games ever made, it's one of the best platformers of all time. And I loved it so much back in 2017 that I gave it my #1 spot. And to further illustrate how monumental that victory was the same year as Super Mario Odyssey, Horizon Zero Dawn, Cuphead, Nier Automata, and Breath of the Wild. Sonic Mania is a wonderful homage to Sonic's 16-bit era. While it may feature some older levels from Sonic 1, CD, 2, and 3, they've been expanded upon and feature a lot of unique gimmicks. Some are new to the franchise, like going into the background in Metallic Madness Zone. And the new levels are even better! I just love the visuals of Studiopolis, Press Garden, and Titanic Monarch might be my favorite final level of any Sonic game. The controls and physics are absolutely perfect, and keeping your momentum going is easier than ever. Especially now with the drop dash, which I'm so glad became a series mainstay. And if you add the 4 additional characters and the Encore mode, Sonic Mania just fires on all cylinders. With wonderful graphics, phenomenal soundtrack by T-Lopes, and some of the best level design in the entire series, this is the Sonic sequel waited for 23 years, and few games have made me feel like a kid again. This is perhaps the most wonderful tribute Sonic has ever received in his entire career, and with quality like this, Sonic Mania shows that the Hedgehog is here to stay. Well, you can't delay the inevitable. It's time for me to finally talk about Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I fell in love with this game as soon as I saw Super Sonic soar above the water, only to get intercepted by Knuckles, who steals your Chaos Emeralds. But it gave me the motivation that I needed. I love the cutscenes in this game, not only because they flesh out the story without any need for dialogue, but they also show how levels are interconnected, giving further credence to the idea that all the zones form one big island. And my gosh, I love every single level in this game. Marble Garden, Ice Cap, Lunch Base, Hydro City, and yes, until Sega confirms it, that's how I'm gonna call that level. Even Carnival Night Zone and its aggravating barrel. The first time I passed it was actually by complete accident when I glitched through the wall, and it took me maybe around 7 years to figure out all you had to do is press up and down. In addition, I love the elemental shields since each one of them gives Sonic a new ability that they can use. Whether it's breathing underwater, immunity to fire, or my personal favorite, the Thunder Shield, since you can double jump, be invulnerable to electricity, and attract rings. I also recall when I beat the Big Arm boss, I was shocked that was the end of the game. 6 levels? That's it? Oh, how naive I was. Later in 1994, Sonic & Knuckles came out and introduced the Lock-On cartridge. Not only it featured the second part of Sonic 3, but combining the two games created the ultimate Sonic experience. And the levels were also fantastic with the likes of Mushroom Hill, Sky Sanctuary, Death Egg, and I would even bat for Sandopolis. It also made me realize that the inaccessible parts for Sonic and Tails were meant for Knuckles the entire time. That blew my mind as a child. Knuckles' playthrough is almost entirely unique and his abilities are enjoyable to use. He even gets exclusive bosses too. And Tails, who used to play exactly like Sonic in the previous game, can now fly at will and explore levels more freely. Oh, and thanks to the lock-on technology, I could play Knuckles in Sonic 2. That is essentially DLC in 1994. The Blue Sphere special stages are some of the best in the entire series, and I love that by using the lock-on technology, you can plug any cartridge to Sonic and Knuckles and get a unique Blue Sphere stage. And if that wasn't enough, Sonic 3 Knuckles has 3 unique types of bonus stages. The soundtrack is one of the best. I love that now we have bosses in Act 1. The competition mode exists. I can go on, but that's where the problem begins. I know some of you wanted me to review this game on this channel for years, and quite frankly, I was always scared to do it. I don't know if anything I can say can do this wonderful experience justice. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 isn't just a phenomenally crafted platformer from beginning to end, but it was my comfort for years. Whenever I had a rough time growing up, I went to my console and played it for hours. Maybe one day I can go into more detail, but for now I'll end with this. Sonic 3 Knuckles isn't just my favorite Sonic game of all time, it's my favorite game ever. No hyperbole or some kind of fine print. It's my undisputable number 1. Sega, Sonic Team, and everyone involved, thank you from the bottom of my heart for making the best game I have ever played in my life. Thank you so much for watching. This video was a labor of love, and I would really appreciate if you like, subscribe, or leave a comment. Let me know some of your favorite Sonic games. I really hope to see you again in the future, and until the next time, take care.